Please be seated. Mr. Segura, you may resume the witness stand. Mr.
So you told police in your interviews with police that you and Brandy weren't fighting or arguing about child support, and you told them that she was really sweet, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay.
She is sweet.
But isn't it true that she was taunting you? She was telling you that you were stupid for thinking that Javante was actually your son?
Yes, she told me that.
Okay. She told you that on numerous occasions, didn't she?
Yes.
And then she'd come back and say, no, he is your son, and then no, he's not. It was kind of like a little mind game she'd play back and forth.
Yes.
And you told police in your second interview that you and Miss Peters never had an argument about child support. The questions that you're being asked are in orange and your statements are in yellow. They ask, tell me about the argument that you and Brandy had about child support. The argument we had about child support, you said? We didn't have an argument about child support. Apparently, she's telling people you did. You say, no, we never had an argument about child support. You said that, didn't you?
Yes.
That's not true, is it?
Of course not. No, it's not true.
In reality, she was actually threatening to have you thrown in jail for not paying child support for Javante,
Yes.
wasn't she?
Plenty of times, yes.
And she was actually doing that just 3 days before she was murdered, right?
She was doing it, yes. Probably. I don't remember the exact time, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was leading up until the time that everything happened.
I'm going to show you a copy of some of these text messages. You just want to look at the dates on those and let me know once you're finished.
That's the dates. I'm just looking at the highlighted dates, or just
Yeah, just these messages about putting you in jail.
Oh. Yeah, all on the 16th.
Okay.
The 16th.
And so that was 3 days before she was murdered?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
And so Brandy Peters, she was telling you that Javante was not your son. You were stupid for ever even thinking that. And then, on the other hand, at the same time, she's trying to put you in jail for not paying child support for a child that she's telling you isn't even yours, right?
Right.
It's not very sweet, is it?
At the time, no, it wasn't.
Okay. And when you lived with Brandy and her children, obviously that was some years ago, before Javante was born and right after his birth, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was when they were living over on Holton Street, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in your interviews with police, you said at the time that you hadn't seen Javante and Brandy in months, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it had been a long time since you saw the twins.
Yes.
In your interviews with police, you acted like child support wasn't really any big deal to you.
It's really not.
There wasn't any issues with that?
It wasn't a big deal to me. It was issues with it, but it wasn't a big deal.
All right, and you told them actually that you said, I put myself on child support.
Yes.
It was another reason to stop contact with Brandy. You didn't want to have any dealings with her, right?
It's not that I didn't want to have any dealings with her, but me having dealings with her was kind of bad for my marriage. So I was trying to stop having dealings with her.
Okay, so you're saying that you wanted to go put yourself on child support to pay for this child that she was telling you were stupid for thinking was yours.
That way I can stop going over bringing her money orders and stuff. Every time I go over bring her money order, we end up having sex. So it's always back and forth.
Okay, so you're saying that this whole time, instead of paying child support so that they wouldn't take any action against you, the state. Instead, you're kind of paying her behind the scenes. You're giving her these money orders, paying for Pampers, things like that.
No, this was all before I put myself on child support.
Okay, so your story is still that you put yourself on child support to pay for Javante, who she told you wasn't yours.
It's not a story, it's a fact.
Okay. And you'd actually, we learned that you owed over $20,000 in child support, and you did not have the money to pay that, did you?
Of course not.
All right. And in fact, the week of the murders, you only had $106 in your bank account, didn't you?
I really don't remember what I had in my bank account.
Well, I'm going to show you what I've marked and has previously been shown to the defense as State's Exhibit 151. State's Exhibit 151 is a copy of, or a document showing that your available balance in your Bank of America account is $106.59, right?
You say after I withdrew $1,450?
Right. That was your current balance as of November 18th?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're telling police, it was no big deal, I just wanted to get a paternity test for $300, at that point, you didn't have $300. You had $106, didn't you?
Of course I had more than $106. I just took out $1,400. Where do you think I got money from to go to my next job out of town? You think I went with $106?
Well, that's what
it costs more than $100 to put gas in your vehicle and pay for a hotel.
Well, that's what you're saying. You're saying money really wasn't that big of a deal, that you were just planning to pay the child support. You could just pay a little bit and get everybody off your back, right?
Right. And you're saying that all I had was $106 in my name. That's very inaccurate according to the $1,455 I withdrew.
Well, I'm sure you had rent, you had other child support, you had a lot of things you were trying to pay. But I'm saying on this date, that was my question to you, that you had $106 in your account.
Yeah, in the account,
and this was the day before the murders, right?
Well, I didn't even look at the date. I looked at how much it was. But regardless, yes, it was $106 in the account.
That was your available balance the day before these murders?
Right.
Okay. And if you could just get Department of Revenue off your back by paying a little bit, you would have, wouldn't you?
That's all I had to do was pay them some money, and yeah.
But you didn't pay them any money. You didn't pay them any money in August, did you?
No.
You didn't pay them any money in September?
No.
Or October?
No.
Or November?
No.
Right? And then after November, you didn't have to pay any money anymore, right?
Unfortunately, no.
And, but you're telling us that you thought you were just going to put it off and pay a little bit at some point in the future, maybe after they'd already put a lien on your property, suspended your license, put you in jail.
No, I was going to make payments way before they done any of that.
But your testimony today is that you did not make any payments in any of those months from the time it was ordered to the time Javante died.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And isn't it true that you actually called Tamika Hawkins, your other baby's mother, to try to get her to take you off child support not long before these murders?
I've been trying to get her to take me off child support since she put me on child support, so I don't recall when, but I probably did.
Okay. I want to talk about the first interview that you had with law enforcement. This interview took place on November 20th, which was the day after the murders, but the same day that the bodies were discovered, right? The bodies of Brandy and her children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You were laughing a lot in that interview. What was so funny?
Nothing was funny. It's just my character. It's how I break the tension whenever I'm having a conversation with someone that I really don't know and not comfortable speaking with.
Okay. So I guess your answer is you were laughing because you were uncomfortable?
I was laughing because I was a black man locked in a room with two guys with guns that were questioning me about stuff that I had no idea as to what was going on.
Well, I mean, you're here in court today. There's men in the rooms with guns. You're not laughing today.
Well, it's totally different because I have my family around me. I have people who love me and support me, and this is a totally different situation.
I'm also, you're saying that you were laughing throughout that interview because you were uncomfortable, but we're not talking about just a little shaken up. I mean, you're laughing repeatedly throughout that interview. You would agree with that, right?
I was interacting with the officers, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, were they laughing?
I don't recall. I don't remember. I don't think so.
Were y'all having we're having a conversation about, they were questioning you about the deaths of these children. They weren't asking you what comedies you like to watch, and y'all were talking about what happens in those, right?
Right.
Okay.
No.
As far as your location the day of the murders, in your first interview, which, as I said before, the same day the bodies were discovered on November 20th, but the day after the murders on November 19th, you told them at that time that you were at home that day, working at your Mustang Drive address, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that you were working on your cars from around 10 to 5, and then your wife got home at that point, right? A little after 5 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you were there when your wife got home. That's what you told them, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you told them that you stayed home all night on Friday night until you went to bed at about 10 or so, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was a lie.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and they didn't ask you this. They just said, I believe their question was, what time did you go to sleep? Did you stay up late? And you said, I probably fell asleep around 10 or so. That was on page 45. And on page 46, you volunteered all of this information. You said, what was I watching? I was watching a movie that had gone on 7 years in Tibet. I don't know what time I went to sleep, but it was on the part where he had just broken out of prison camp. That's the last thing that I remember, right? You gave them all that information?
Yes.
And that was all lies too, right?
No, that movie was actually playing on television. We were watching it. I was texting and talking to my girlfriend. My kids was right there. Yeah, we were watching it.
But it wasn't at the time, you said, right?
It was somewhere around that time.
Around 10?
Yeah.
Okay. But that wasn't the only time that you gave police a lot of details about something. You told them that the reason that you had this gunshot wound to your chest was because you were a victim of robbery, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you told them, when they asked you about that, I lost my highlighted page, so I'll just go to the original transcript. You said that you were a victim of a robbery in Mississippi. You said that you stopped to ask for directions and you got shot in the stomach. You said that the robber pulled you out of the truck. He took all your clothes off. Then he asked me for the keys to your he asked you for the keys to your truck. You said, I'm not giving you the keys to my truck. I don't know where I'm out of town. He got all of your money, he took all of your money from you that was in your pockets, because your wallet was in the center console. You gave him all of your money, you took your clothes, and he said, you're going to give me the keys. So then you threw the keys to the side of the road, and then looked at the keys, and then he jumped at you and hit you. And then he ran away and started cussing you out, and then you said, you pussy, when I catch you, and then he turned around and just started shooting at you, right?
Right. Yes.
And that wasn't true. You actually said that the reason that you got shot was because you went to, your cousin was having issues with some guy in Mississippi, so you drove over there to have his back, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is a lot of impressive details, though. That's pretty elaborate.
Well, it was actually some of it was true that happened with my cousin, but I didn't want to let him know that my cousin had issues with some stuff going on, so.
So
I
both.
was trying to admit a lot of information.
Okay. So for both the 7 years in Tibet and the Mississippi shooting, you tried to incorporate things that were true into your lie to make it more believable, right?
Somewhat.
Right. Pretty smart. That's a good way to be convincing. You could probably be pretty convincing, especially if you had years to think up of what to tell this jury, right?
You probably could if that was your intentions, but that's not my intentions today.
Okay. So, now we have your secret cell phone location. So you can't go with the I was at home all night story anymore, right?
Mm.
So you're telling us that you were at Brandy's house the evening of the murders, right?
Yes.
And you're telling us the reason that you lied to the police about your location was because you and Brandy had sex that day or that evening, and you did not want your wife to find out about it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So why didn't you just admit to police then that you were over at Brandy's house to see your son and just leave out the part about sex?
Because I had already told my wife I was going to be home all day working on my vehicles, and I didn't want her to know I was at Brandy's house, period, any time of that day.
Okay, but she knew that you weren't at home working on your cars. She was home and you weren't there, right?
Yeah. She didn't know where I was or what was going on.
Okay. Well, why not just tell the police that you were over at Brandy's and just leave out the sex part?
I could have. I guess I wasn't thinking that at the time.
So just wasn't thinking about it? That was your reasoning?
Yes. I was thinking about was my wife not finding out I was just having sex with my ex-girlfriend.
Okay, so you just didn't want your wife to find out that you were over there, period, then?
Yes.
But isn't it true that you told police that Malika doesn't check up on you? You told them in your interview, and Investigator Lewis said, how often do you speak to Malika? What do you mean, how often? I mean, is she always checking up on you? The reason I'm asking is, is she always checking, the reason I'm asking is she always checking up on you? And you said no. She'll call every now and then. She might, like yesterday, she called to see if I wanted to go to lunch with her. Other than that, I don't know. Right?
Well, it's obvious due to the phone records that you can see she checks up on me a whole lot.
Okay. Well, I mean, they even confronted you about that a little bit. They said, come on, after 3 affairs, I would think that she would be like, where is Henry? And you said, no. He said, no? You said, she doesn't do that. She don't be calling to check on me to see where I'm at. Right?
Yeah, that's what I said. But like I said, I was talking to the police in an interview room. I'm speaking to you now in an open court where I was sworn to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay, so you were lying to police.
Obviously.
Right. Oh, I mean, is that obvious?
It is obvious.
Do you lie
I told
to
you I was
every
lying
time
to
you
him.
speak to them?
No, I don't. I don't speak to the police.
All right. In your interviews, though, in this case, you lied to them.
When it pertains to me cheating on my wife, yes, I lied to him because I did not want her to find out I was over there.
And you're saying that you lied, I guess, on a technicality because they didn't swear you in before you interviewed?
No, that wasn't the reason why I didn't lie. I mean, the reason why I did lie to them. It was just that I didn't want my wife finding out that I was still cheating on her.
Okay.
That was the main purpose of me making the whole story up to the police about I never seen or talked to Brandy during that time period.
Okay. So at the time, you wanted to make it seem like my wife doesn't check up on me. But because you didn't want them to have that secret cell phone, right? Or know that you had a secret cell phone or a reason to have one, right?
I was just hoping that they wouldn't contact my wife. That was my whole purpose of talking to them. I was hoping they wouldn't call her and contact her and tell her anything about any of this.
Okay. But we know from those messages that we've gotten from your phone that on Wednesday you did tell your wife because you forwarded Brandy's text messages to her and you actually told her, hey, Brandy's sending me these messages. I'm going to go over to Brandy's house and try to smooth out over all this child support stuff, right?
Right.
And she didn't mind then?
Right.
Okay.
Actually, she did mind, but I mentioned it to her before I went over there, so I had an excuse as to why I was going.
Okay. Well,
So even if we would have done anything during that time period, then yes, I was at Brandy's house. She knew where I was.
Well, we all know that you can come up with stuff pretty quickly on your feet. Why on Friday? Why didn't you just say, "Hey, she's on me about the child support stuff again. I'm going to swing by there one more time."
I wasn't. Well, excuse me. I talked to my wife and told her I'm gonna be working on my vehicle all day. Mm-hmm. So in the process, I'm texting Brandy, and we're talking about making plans to hook up later on that day and tomorrow. So, what was I supposed to do? Like, change plans with my wife and tell her, hey, I'm not working on my truck. I'm finna go by Brandy's and see about the child support. Talk to her about child support again.
Well, yeah, I mean, on Wednesday, whatever you were doing, you had to tell her, you know, now I'm now going over to Brandy's house to do this or that, right?
No, it was totally different.
All right, so you're saying today that your wife had not caught you cheating from the time that your son with her, Jalik, right?
Yes,
From
ma'am.
the time Jalik died to when you were arrested for this case, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the reason that you lied to police about going to Brandy's house. She had not caught you cheating all that time. You didn't want to ruin it and have police tell her something about the fact that you had cheated on her after the last time she had found out about you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Jalik was born in May of 2008, and he died in March of 2009, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so I guess that was a little bit more than a year and a half before the murders of Brandy and her children, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true, though, that you were not concerned about what the police were going to tell your wife? You lied to the police because you didn't want police to know your location, right?
No.
Okay. Well, you told police, though, that you continued cheating on your wife even after your wife caught you, didn't you?
Yes.
And in your interview on November 30th, 2010, you actually told police that you and Brandy broke up a couple of years ago when you went to Colorado. But y'all would still sleep around every now and then. And then Investigator Lewis tries to clarify, okay, and this is even after your wife caught you? Because, am I incorrect? Your wife does not know about this, right? And you said, yeah. So even after your wife caught you, you were still sleeping around? And you nodded your head. And what about, and the last time you slept together, it was over a year ago? You said yes. What stopped you from continuing sleeping with Brandy? You said, I had another girlfriend. May I ask who that is? Her name was Christmas. So you told police that you cheated on your wife after she last caught you, and she didn't know about it, right?
Yeah. Colorado was the time. It was when Javante was first born.
Okay, well, you said here that the last time you slept with Brandy was a year ago. You said that in your interview.
Mm-hmm.
But then you say that you got a new girlfriend. That was the reason you stopped talking to Brandy.
Right.
And her name was Tyra. We met her last week, right?
Exactly.
Right. And then your wife found out about her.
Exactly. This is the girl who I was in Crystal River with when my wife told me that my son had one night to live, and the doctor said we need to get all the family together. So I brought her back with me, and that's when I promised my wife that I wouldn't cheat on her no more. That's when I stopped talking to Tyra, and a couple months later we started back talking.
Okay, but you're saying that you broke up with Brandy, that you stopped sleeping with her 1 year before,
Mm-hmm.
and you did that in this interview. You said that you did that because you got the new girlfriend, Tyra,
Mm-hmm.
and then your wife found out about Tyra. And all of that happened after your wife had first caught you cheating, and she didn't know about any of that.
Well,
and the police clarified that with you, didn't they?
No. See, I was talking to Tyra like long before I started working in Crystal River. My wife just found out about Tyra like before I started working in Crystal River. So when I'm in Crystal River with Tyra, she didn't know that she was down there with me. Even though I told her I was, I stopped talking to the girl, I still was talking to her.
Okay.
So after I made the promise to her, that's when I tried to stop talking with all the rest of the girls, but eventually I started back talking with her.
So when he asked you, your wife doesn't know about this, right? And you said, yeah, you're saying that you misspoke there, that that's not true?
When he asked me, my wife doesn't know about this, what?
That you
This talking to
stopped
Tyra?
sleeping. The last time you slept with Brandy was a year ago, and then you got with Tyra.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. I stopped talking to Brandy, and got with Tyra a year ago. Stopped having sex with her a year ago, got with Brandy. Tyra. Something.
And why are you saying that you didn't want your wife to know? Because you didn't want to hurt her feelings, I guess?
I guess I wasn't really worried about hurting her feelings because I hadn't hurt her feelings so much. I was just trying to prevent our marriage from falling apart because it was already on the rocks, and I know I have one more strike at the most.
So you were basically trying to tell us that you were kind of monitoring what you said to the police because you didn't want it to get back to your wife.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't tell them about any of the girls I was speaking with or in relationships with.
But you weren't too scared of anything to get back to your wife. When police asked you your favorite thing about Brandy Peters, you told them sex, right?
Yes.
They could have told that to your wife, right? She probably wouldn't have been happy about that.
I think she already knew that because we had a child together, me and Brandy.
And you're saying that the reason that you didn't tell them about your current girlfriend at the time in November 2010, who was Natasha, right, you said?
Yes.
The reason that you didn't tell them about that was because you also didn't want your wife to know about that, right?
Yes.
But, I mean, you didn't tell police about Natasha because you didn't want police talking to Natasha. Isn't that true?
I didn't want my wife to find out that I had another girlfriend.
You were texting with Natasha the night of the murders from the secret phone that you were hiding from police that put you at Brandy's house the night of the murders. You didn't want them talking to Natasha because the first thing that they're going to say to Natasha is, what number do you talk to Henry Segura on? Did you talk to him on November 19th?
Okay, so
right?
When I'm at my home at 10 o'clock at night texting Natasha, I have no idea Brandy's dead. So I'm not worried about using my phone talking to Natasha or any other female I was talking to that night.
Okay, so when you lied to them about Natasha, it wasn't because you were texting her from your secret phone the night of the murders when you were at Brandy's house.
No,
that's all just a coincidence.
It was all because I was married and she was married.
Okay. And you were arrested for these murders in September of 2011 in Minnesota, right?
Yes.
And you said that you had not been caught cheating on your wife from the time Jalik died through the time that you were arrested, correct?
Close to the time I was arrested.
Close to the time you were arrested?
Yes, ma'am. It was during that time when I was going to Minnesota, right before I went to Minnesota.
Before you went to Minnesota, that's when she found out about the girl that we heard about on the jail call?
Yes.
Okay. And in that jail call, we heard that you're telling your wife you're not going to stop talking to another woman because that woman makes you happy.
Yes, ma'am.
So you really weren't concerned about your wife's feelings at that point, right?
No, at that point I wasn't. I hadn't told her I wanted a divorce at that point.
Okay. So after you're arrested, at that point, you and Malika are not on good terms. She already knows that you've been cheating on her. You have a current girlfriend that you obviously don't care if she knows about. You're saying, she makes me happy, I want to be with her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So then you could have told police at that point in 2011 the reason that you were at Brandy's house, the legitimate reason. You could have said, I was over there to see my son. I just didn't tell you that because I didn't want Malika to find out that we had sex, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't do that.
No, I didn't.
And Malika actually filed for divorce from you in July of 2016. And after she divorced you, you still didn't go to police and try to say, okay, now she's really out of my life. The real reason I was at her house was because I just didn't want her to find out I was having sex with Brandy, right?
2011, I think it was July, when I went to Minnesota. I cheated on my wife. I met this girl. We started talking. My marriage was already way downhill. So when I got with her and I went to Minnesota and I broke up with my wife, the investigation was going on for about a year, over a year. Mm-hmm. So what am I supposed to call and tell the police? They never called and updated me on anything. So I assumed that they were following up leads and getting this investigation on the way, right, and not worried about me and my sex life.
Sure. So, though, when you were arrested in 2011, at that point, you do have an update in the investigation, and the update is, they think I did it. And at that point, you and your wife are not on good terms. She knows you have another girlfriend, so why not go to the police at that point and just say, you've got the wrong guy, here's why I lied to you. I know that you think I did it because I lied to you, but I didn't, and here's why. You never did that, did you?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, I talked to Joanna, I think her name. Matter of fact, I talked to her on the phone a couple times. She called me. She was calling, harassing me all the time about your, I know you killed your son, and
Joanna?
He was your son, Johnson. That's her name? Johnson? Yeah. She's called me on the phone all the time. And yes, I did tell her about my girlfriend, and she said, I already know about your girlfriend. I already know this and that. And so
And you're saying this is a police officer named Joanna Johnson who's affiliated with this case?
I don't know if I know her last name is Johnson. She was the investigator on the case. She was in the second interview.
Okay.
She called my phone numerous times. And she told me she already knew about me cheating on my wife. And she already knew about the girlfriend. So what was I supposed to tell her?
Well, did you tell her the truth? Did you tell her I was over there just because to see my son? But I lied to you about the sex? You didn't tell him that?
No, I didn't tell her that. Okay. I didn't have a chance to.
Why not?
Because the way our conversation went, the phone call ended abruptly. And I didn't call her back. Okay. And every time she called me, I would refuse to call. And
so your answer is no, that you did not tell police that?
Yes, I told the lady Johnson, Investigator Johnson,
you told
over
her
the phone that I was cheating on my wife. I didn't want y'all to find out. Mm-hmm. And she, excuse me, and she, like I say, she went back and forth, and we was arguing about, she know I killed my son. We're gonna arrest you for killing your son, and I hung up on her.
So your testimony is that you told police in this case over the phone,
Investigator Johnson.
Wait a minute, don't interrupt her question, Mr. Segura. Let her finish her question.
She's asking the same question over and over.
Be quiet.
No, she's...
Be quiet. Now, she asks you a question, you wait till she finishes.
I'm a grown man.
And then answer it, okay? Yeah. And she won't interrupt your answer either, because the court reporter can't take down two people at once. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah, that's very clear.
All right.
Your testimony is that you did tell Officer Johnson or Investigator Johnson that you were at Brandy's home the night of the murders on November 19th.
No, I didn't tell her I was at the home the night of the murders. I told her that I was there that afternoon and we had sex.
Okay. You told them that you were there that afternoon, you had sex, and then you left.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What we saw right there, you have a little bit of a temper, right?
I'm getting aggravated. You keep asking me the same questions over and over like you're expecting a different answer.
Okay. And we know that, and I mean, you'd probably be the first one to tell us this. Brandy, she tells you what's on her mind. She's not one to hold her tongue, right?
Neither am I.
Okay. Is that kind of what has started this whole thing?
No, we were two people that we got along great. We had arguments. We fuss, we fight, we have sex, we make up. It was actually a pretty good relationship.
Can't imagine you'd be too happy about her saying she's going to put you in jail, calling your mama a bitch, doing all those things we saw in the text messages.
Yeah, Tamika, my first baby mama, did the exact same thing. And we went through the same exact thing. I didn't go and try to kill my child because of that.
And your child with Tamika is Janae?
Yes.
And you knew Janae was yours. You knew she's your daughter.
No, not initially. Not in the beginning. I didn't.
Okay. You didn't have any doubt throughout the years that she was growing up that she was your daughter.
All the way up until she was 3, just like Javante. That's when I first met her. She was 3 years old.
I want to talk to you about the second phone. You lied to police in your interviews and you told them that you did not have a secret cell phone, right?
Yes.
Okay. And finally, after denying that you had a second phone, I guess about 20 times over the course of the 2 interviews, you finally admit to police that you have one, right?
I don't recall admitting to him I had a second phone.
Okay. Let's look at the transcript here. This is towards the end of the second interview and the clips we saw after you denied it several times. Investigator Johnson finally just gets real with you. She says, what's your other cell phone? I don't have no other cell phone. You've got a second phone. No, I don't. You do have a second phone. I know you have a second phone. No, I don't. I'm 100% positive you have a second phone, okay? Why don't you tell us about the second phone? You said, I don't have a second phone. I had a second phone. I don't have one. And she said, well, where was the phone? What's the number? Right?
Yes, ma'am. I remember that.
Okay. So at that point, police know you have a second phone. Oh, wait. I wanted to also show you this. They ask you, who were you talking to on the phone? And you say, friends, females, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So at this point, police know you have a second phone. You have admitted that you had a second phone. And you've also admitted that you talked to females on that phone, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, I mean, the cat's kind of out of the bag about that at that point, right?
Not necessarily, because I told him I said I don't have a second phone. I had a phone, because I hadn't got rid of the phone. So technically, I didn't have a phone. I had a phone.
Okay.
But
go ahead. The cat's out of the bag, I'm saying, as far as you having a second phone that you talk to girls on.
Yes.
Okay. So at that point, though, you still don't say, all right, I do have this secret phone. I was sleeping with Brandy. Here's the number, but I did not commit these murders, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay. Instead, you start acting like you don't remember the number. They say, what was the number? You say 408 something. I don't remember it by heart. I don't even remember it by heart. I didn't know it. That's what you told them, right?
Yeah, I didn't know it.
I'm sorry?
I said, no, I didn't remember the number by heart.
You didn't remember the number? That's your testimony?
No, I didn't know it by heart.
I mean, in that interview, you had given your primary phone number by heart, your primary cell phone number by heart, right? Mm-hmm. Your home number by heart, your mom and dad's numbers by heart, but you're saying you didn't know the number to your secret cell phone by heart?
Well, I just got the phone from a friend of mine that left it in my truck, so I was using it, so I didn't know the number by heart.
Well, if you don't know the number by heart, how are you going to give it out to all the women?
Whenever I get their number, I put it in my phone and call them, and they have my number like that.
Okay. So you're saying at that point you just honestly didn't remember the number?
I really didn't remember it.
But when police ask you where the phone is, you say, well, first you told them, I don't have the phone. What did you do with it? I threw it away. Why did you throw it away? I didn't need it. I don't need it. And then they asked you, you said the phone is not active. I don't have the phone anymore. That's what I'm telling you. They said, when did it go inactive? You say, I don't know how long it's been, to be honest with you. And then you were also trying to tell them that this was way before Brandy passed away. This was a long time ago, right? You were trying to act like the second phone wasn't something that you recently had. You had it long before then, weren't you?
I don't know if I was trying to act like that or not, but I just didn't want them getting this information back to my wife. That was the whole purpose of me telling them what I told them.
Okay, because you didn't want your wife to know that you were seeing Brandy.
I didn't want her to know I was seeing any of the females I was seeing at the time.
Because you said Brandy had some issue where if she had your number, she would just call you off the hook.
Yes.
Okay, but she had your primary cell phone number, didn't she?
She did.
Okay. She texted you on that the day of the murders, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay. And then police confront you. They say, listen, we know people who have talked to you on it as recently as Monday. And you're like, that's not possible. And they said, yes, it was the Monday after Thanksgiving, after these murders, after all this happened, and you finally say, yeah, probably, right?
Yes.
So why did you throw the phone away just a few days after these murders?
Well, I assumed that the police, were going to get in touch with my wife, and I wanted to be sure she didn't have any access to that telephone, because I had pictures, I had text messages, I had all kind of stuff that I knew she didn't need to see, or we would have probably got a divorce a whole lot sooner in 2016.
Okay, so your answer is you threw it away because you didn't want Malika to find out?
Yes.
And it's just kind of a coincidence this is 3 days after these murders?
I didn't think of it as a coincidence at the time.
Okay. I mean, you were always scared, though, of Malika finding out about that phone, right?
No, not in particular before this all happened.
Right.
Because the police kept calling and harassing us and coming by the house, and she trying to figure out why. And she don't know the reason why is because me and Brandy had sex that day, so I'm trying to keep this from her.
Right. But I'm saying just the secret cell phone in general. That was something you always wanted to keep secret from her, Malika, right?
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't end up throwing it away until right after these murders. Then you threw it away.
Yes.
Okay. And you were so concerned about her finding it that you told police that you threw it away in the trash can at your house where you live with her?
Yes.
Okay.
The dumpster out front.
And while we're talking about the cell phone locations and everything, you've obviously had an opportunity here in court to look at all the evidence before you've testified about today, to hear it all and see it all with the jury, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you and your attorneys, y'all have had the reports and the information about this case, all of the cell phone evidence that we showed the jury, y'all have had that for years, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Long before you've been able to tell this story to the jury today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You never got rid of your primary cell phone after the murders, did you?
No, ma'am.
But you talked to other women on that cell phone too, didn't you?
No, not really.
Who's Heather?
Heather?
Yeah.
I
Heather.
couldn't tell you.
You don't know who that is?
No.
All right. I'm looking at, these are text messages incoming and outgoing to your 509 number. This is an outgoing text message to Heather. You say, send me a picture of that pussy. I know you got some on you. Right?
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry?
I say, yeah, I see it, but yeah, I don't remember seeing it.
Okay, so you were also talking to other women on your primary cell phone, weren't you?
I might have, was that before? I don't really remember that, yeah.
You don't remember texting a girl and asking for pictures of her vagina?
No, but Nigel, I do remember a girl named Heather, yeah.
Okay.
But no,
So-
I didn't remember that text message.
Okay.
But that does sound like something I would say.
But the answer is yes, you did talk to other women on your primary 509 cell phone?
Occasionally, I guess.
And you didn't throw that cell phone away. I guess you weren't worried about Malika finding anything on it, huh?
Well, actually, Malika had a way of finding everything on my phone. That's why I always use the second phone.
Okay. Why were you still texting other women from your primary phone then?
I bet you probably couldn't find a whole bunch of text messages from them. Because I noticed when I call someone and we're on the phone for an hour or better, or I'm texting someone in wee hours of the night,
Well,
Malika
unfortunately,
will call the number and find out who it is. And
unfortunately,
find
we
out
only
who's
have a few days of text before the murder, so I don't have a whole lot to work with. But
yeah, I didn't use my primary phone too often to call other women.
Heather was texting you, and then, as you said, Brandy also had that number, right?
Yes.
Okay. And
It was more females than
I'm
those.
sorry, I didn't ask. Are you answering the last question I asked?
Yeah, you say Heather and Brandy text me from that number.
Right.
Yeah, I had Natasha knew that number. Plenty of females I talked to knew that number.
Okay.
But when I got the primary phone, the other phone, I told them to stop using this number and call me on this number.
All right, but this message that you sent to Heather for her to send pictures of her vagina to you, that was on November 12th, right?
That's what time it says. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you had your second cell phone.
What time was it?
Secret cell. 1:31.
In the afternoon.
No, in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, that was due to me being hooked on having sex, I guess.
My whole point is that you talk to other women on your 509 primary cell phone, right? Okay. The reason that you didn't throw your primary cell phone away, because you did talk to other women on it. The reason that you didn't throw it away is because you wanted it to be your alibi, didn't you? For this case.
That's the phone I use for work. Everybody has that number. That's where I get most of my jobs. Contractors call me on that number to go to work. So.
Okay. And I understand that. But when police asked you, I guess is your answer that no, you didn't want it to be your alibi?
No, I wasn't looking at it for an alibi with the police. I was thinking about Malika not being able to find out that I was at Brandy's house that day. I wasn't thinking about the police.
When police asked you, I've got to try to verify that you're at your house on Friday, okay? Any suggestion as to how I do that? You said, you can check my phone.
I knew my primary phone was at home that day because I didn't bring it to Brandy's house.
Right. So you were telling them that that's your alibi. You can check my phone, right?
Yes.
Why would you leave your main cell phone at home if you didn't want it to be your alibi?
Because in actuality, in a sense, it was my alibi to Malika that Excuse me. I'm at home. She wanted to call my phone. She had a way of checking my phone. I didn't know she had a darn, excuse me. I don't know if she had a tracking device on my phone or everything. Every time I did anything with that phone, she found out about it. So I left the phone home.
How would she do that?
I have yet to ask her and find out.
Okay,
But she most definitely can do it.
Isn't it true that at a prior proceeding you were asked that same question? Why did you leave your main cell phone, your primary phone, at your house when you went over to Brandy's house? And your answer was?
So I didn't want my wife to find out that I was over there.
Did you? No, you said the reason I left it was Malika always had a way of knowing her. Anytime I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, she knew about it. I got an email address. She can get in my email address. She can get in my Facebook account. She always found out about it.
Yeah.
How did she find out about your locations from your Facebook account?
Like I'm telling you, I don't know what she used to do. I don't know if I had an iPhone, so I don't know if she had a tracker thing on it then. I don't know.
Well, isn't it true that if you were to show, if your Facebook were to show a location, it's because you logged in and added a location to show the public? It just doesn't automatically do that for you, right?
I don't know how that works, but I do recall on Facebook where you can show your location and place where you are. But
right. If you
I don't know exactly. I don't know all the features on how it works.
Right, but if you decide to share that with the public, she can't just look at your Facebook and see that you're at Brandy's house. That's not how it works. You would agree with that, right?
No, I don't agree with that because I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how that works. So no.
You're saying you don't know how Facebook works?
No, I haven't seen Facebook in like a long time.
Well, it hasn't changed much. You're saying you don't know how it worked in 2010?
No, I know that if I did a certain thing, I can put my location in, but I don't know the ins and outs of it.
That's my point. That's something that you would have to actively do. That's not something that she can just get on the internet and see that you're at Brandy's house, right?
I don't know if she could or couldn't is what I'm telling you.
All right. If you didn't want your primary phone to be your alibi, why delete the text from Malika to your primary phone on November 19th?
Why did I delete the primary text? The text on my primary phone?
From the text from Malika on your phone from the 19th.
From Malika?
Mm-hmm.
Or from Brandy?
From Malika.
I don't know. I don't know what text did I delete from Malika?
The ones on the 19th.
I don't know.
So it's not just because they were inconsistent with your alibi?
Oh, you mean the text when I was gone and she was continuing to text me? Yeah. Oh no, I just cleared all of it. If you look at my phone records, you'll see I deleted everything on Brandy's and just about everything from Malika's that Malika texted me. Because one of the text messages that Brandy sent me, I sent to Malika. And in that text message, some of the string of text messages that was in there with Malika's. So when I deleted it, I took all of them out.
I'm talking about what Malika sent to you.
I know.
Nothing to do with Brandy.
Yeah, I took all those text messages out.
You deleted all those?
Yes.
The ones where she's saying, "Where are you?"
Yes.
The night of November 19th.
Yes.
And the reason that you deleted those is because it's not consistent with your alibi that you were at home, right?
No, you don't need the phone to look at a text message. I did know that. Like, you don't need a phone to look at a text message. So if that's the case, I'm not hiding anything, obviously.
So you don't know how Facebook works, but you do know how Cellbrights work.
No, I don't.
Forensic digital.
I never heard of
communication.
Cellbright. Never heard of Cellbright. But I just know a buddy of mine that had a cell phone and told me his wife got all the stuff off of the internet or something. So I assumed that was the same thing.
In that first interview with police, police did not give you any details of how Brandy died, did they?
No, ma'am.
Actually, they didn't give you any details about how any of Brandy or her children died, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I guess you'd probably tell us you didn't even know that she survived, all these gunshot wounds and literally had to be beaten to death until, I guess, you read the reports for the case. Is that what you'd probably tell us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when I say read reports for the case, that would have been after your arrest, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yet, at the end of your interview with police on November 20th, so just 24 hours after these murders, police asked you to describe Brandy, and out of any word in the world, you say she was a survivor.
Yes.
Didn't you?
She was, yes.
That's the word that you chose?
She was a survivor. She, whatever, at all costs, she knew how to make it happen. When she didn't have no food in the house or no money, she knew how to make it happen. She was a survivor.
Oh, we know she was a survivor. She fought her butt off, that's for sure.
She did.
Only something at that point that the person who committed these murders would know, right?
Well, the person who committed the murders should have a bunch of bruises and marks and scrapes and scratches all over him from her fighting, because I'm sure she did fight with all she had in her.
And a good person for us to look to for guidance on that would probably be the medical examiner. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said that she was a survivor also because she always found a way to make it, even if she didn't have money to put food on the table.
Yes.
And that happened quite a bit, right?
Well, I just know from stories of me, when I first met her, we talked a lot, and she told me about growing up and, stuff she had endured and stuff she went through and how she made it. And
okay. She was not a well-to-do person.
what do you mean by well-to-do?
She didn't have money.
No. She wasn't from no rich family or nothing like that.
Right. I mean, even at the time, she's driving a broken-down car her mom gave her. She's living in Section 8 housing, right?
Yes, she was living in Section 8 housing.
All right. You told your attorney that you didn't commit these murders.
I told the world I didn't commit these murders.
Okay. Why wouldn't you?
You say, why wouldn't I?
Right.
Because I have no reason whatsoever to kill my son or those twins. Neither Brandy.
So you just have no reason to do it?
No reason whatsoever. I wouldn't. What would I kill a child for?
Okay.
Let alone children.
You told us that you love these twins. They were like daughters to you.
Yes.
And you said that they called you daddy, you potty trained them, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it true that in neither one of your interviews you ever asked police how they died?
I already knew how they died.
How?
They were found in the tub.
How?
What's her name? Pint told me that the kids were found in the tub.
Pint told you that?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what does that mean, though? How do you know how they died just because they were found in a tub?
Well, I assumed they were found in the tub. I assumed they had drowned.
Okay, so they couldn't have been shot and then put in a tub or strangled and put in a tub. You just assumed that they drowned?
Yeah, I assumed all of them had drowned, but one of them actually was shot and put in the tub.
Okay.
But I didn't find that out till later.
All right, I want to touch on two things then. Isn't it true that in your interview, that Pint told you that your son was with some other guy, but that the two girls, your son was with another guy, but the two girls, the kids were killed. Your son wasn't found in the house, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't tell police anything about the fact that you knew that the girls had drowned, did you?
No.
You just said that she told you they were killed.
Well, that's what I told him in the interview, but yeah, she told me they were found. I'm pretty sure she told me they were found in the tub.
And in fact, in a prior proceeding in this case, you never asked how the girls died, did you? And you said, no.
No.
And then he asked, you already knew that one, right? And your response was, no, I just wanted to know how my son died.
Yeah, I want to know how my son died because, like I say, Pint told me the kids were found in the tub, and she said that my son was not in the house.
Yeah, but here you're saying you didn't know how the girls died. You said no. And that the reason that you didn't ask how the girls died was because you just wanted to know how your son died. That's what we just saw.
Well, that's what I said.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying that's what you're saying today is different than what you said before.
No, it's not
right?
different from what I'm saying. What I said before, I just didn't say that before. They
Okay.
asked me a question. I told them that I just wanted to know how my son died.
So when he asked you already knew how the girls died, right? And you said no. That's not different than today. You're telling us that you knew that the girls had drowned because Pint told you that?
Yes, I guess, yes. When you put it that way, it does look different.
And in your interview, police also asked you, this is November 20th, if you could turn the clock back 24, 36 hours, what would you do different, or would you do anything differently? And you said, yeah. What would you do? And you said, pick my son up, right?
Excuse me. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
You
ma'am.
didn't mention anything about picking these twins up, too, who were killed, who were so close to you, did you?
Well, I felt real bad because all the time Javante was growing up, I never spent time with him. I never got a chance to really know him. He didn't know me as a father figure, and I felt bad. I felt like his life was taken away from him, and he didn't never have a chance to live it.
Okay, so the answer is no, that you did not tell police that if you could turn back the clock, you wouldn't also pick these twins up that you were so close to.
No, I didn't say that. I said I wanted to pick my son up.
Right. So the answer is no?
Right.
Okay. I want to talk about Javante. You said, I have no reason to kill him, but you did owe over $20,000 on him, right?
Yes.
And you didn't consider him your son, I mean, let's be honest.
Actually, I did consider him my son, but I was unsure 100% whether he was or wasn't. But I considered him my son because I signed a birth certificate. I was there with him when he was born, so.
Yeah, but since then, his mom, his own mother, so the person that was obviously there when he was conceived, gave birth to him, she's telling you, you're stupid for thinking he's yours, isn't she?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't want to pay child support for him, isn't that true?
Actually, I wanted to pay child support so that I wouldn't have to deal with her, like in that aspect as to going over, giving her cash money.
I'll rephrase my question. You were writing letters contesting the fact that you should have to pay child support for him, isn't that true?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you said that you didn't get to see him very much because you were too busy to drive across town to see him. That was kind of hard to do with your job and other obligations that you had.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But on the day of November 19th, you were willing to wait, I guess, for Brandy and Javante to get home and not have her mom over. You got there at, you said, 1-ish, and you didn't go in the house until 5. So you waited outside down the road for 4 hours for them, right?
Right. And I wasn't waiting for them. I was waiting for her. I wanted to have sex. We hadn't talked up. We'd been on the phone all day talking about what we was going to do, how I was going to do it, and I was amped up, ready to go, and I wanted to do it. So.
You said that every time you went over there, y'all ended up having sex, yet you hadn't been over there in months, and you're too busy to drive over there. You also told us all those things, didn't you?
Well, every time I went over there, we didn't have sex, because I went there Wednesday, we didn't have sex.
I guess my question is, on the day of the murders, you were willing to drive over there and wait for 4 hours to see them?
To have sex, yes.
The answer is yes?
To have sex, yes.
Okay.
I probably would have waited all night. She would have called me and told me to come back, wait till midnight.
You had other opportunities to have sex with other people besides Brandy that day, right? You and Natasha were texting about having sex, weren't you?
Well, it was different with Brandy.
Okay. Is your answer yes, that you also were texting other women about sex that day, other women that you could have had sex with?
Yes.
Okay. But you were willing to wait 4 hours to have sex specifically with Brandy?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I would have waited longer than that, probably.
All right, so you told us when your attorney was asking you questions that you were on your way, you said you were on your way to Sop Choppy, right? To your friend Adam Thornton's house when Pint called you with the news that Brandy and her kids were killed?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, where were you?
I think I was coming from Sop Choppy, and I called Pint to get set up an appointment to get my son's hair done.
Okay, I'm sorry, my bad. So you called Pint to get your son's hair braided. And in your direct, I couldn't help but notice you actually said you were going to get your youngest son's hair braided.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but he wasn't actually your youngest son, was he?
No, he was my youngest son at the time.
Okay. Well, Javante was your youngest son at the time, right?
Actually, Jalik would have been my youngest son at the time if that was the case.
Unfortunately, Jalik had passed away at that point, and Javante had passed away as well at that point, but you didn't know it. All you knew at that point was that he was missing, right?
No. Well, actually, I didn't know anything until I called her.
Right, I'm saying that you're on your way to get your son's hair braided, and that's where you saw Pint. You said you took your youngest son. I'm trying to point out, Javante was actually your youngest son, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I have an older son and a younger son. He's the
I mean,
youngest of my two with my wife. So yeah, I always call him my youngest son.
you'd already killed Javante at that point, so you knew he wasn't your youngest son anymore.
Man, check this out. If I'm gonna kill Javante, why not bring him home with me and kill Brandy? That way I don't have to pay child support and I can raise my son like I want to.
Would your wife be okay with that?
She wouldn't have to be. She wouldn't have to be okay with it. I can.
You said in your interview she didn't even want you giving these kids Christmas presents or
That's
going
what I
over there to
said.
see
She wouldn't
them.
have to be okay with it. If I had a chance to be with my son, to take my son so he wouldn't be hurt, then me and her we just wouldn't be together.
You were willing to lie to police about a murder charge of children in order to protect your wife from knowing that you were just even over at Brandy's house.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying that your wife and you would have welcomed Brandy's child with you into your home and raised him as your own?
That's not what I'm saying. My wife would not have welcomed Brandy's son and my son into our home. But if I would have known my son was going to be in any danger, then yes, I most definitely would have did away with my marriage so that my son could still be here today.
Okay, so let's then talk about how you react when your son could be in danger. You find out from Pint that your son is missing. Everyone else in his family is killed. He is missing. He's with another guy.
Right.
Did you call police to see if you could help in the search for your son?
No.
Did you call Brandy's family, offer your condolences, try to help them in any way?
I don't know any of their numbers. I just know where some of them live at.
Did you drive over to Brandy's house, the scene of these murders, and say, "Where's my son? What's going on? How can I help? I just saw them yesterday. What can I do?" You didn't do any of that, did you?
No, I didn't have to, because by the time I had both of my kids with me when I found this news out. So by the time I made it to her house to drop my kids off, that's when she told me that my son was killed. As
Okay,
well.
so
they found him
your
in the
answer
bottom
is,
of the tub. She said they found him in the tub under the girls.
your answer is no, that you didn't call anyone after you found out your son was missing and the rest of his family was dead.
No, I didn't. I had to process it inside of myself before
Your
I can talk to anyone about it.
Your response once you found that out was taking your other son to get his hair braided, going to the barbershop.
Well, my wife was out shopping somewhere doing something, and I had both the kids with me. I didn't have nowhere else to bring them.
All right, it's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that... One second. Isn't it true that, you really couldn't have cared less about Javante?
That's very untrue.
He was nothing but a drain on your bank account, right?
No, how could he have been just a drain on my bank account if I never paid the child support that they was ordering me to pay?
Evidently you're saying you're paying all this money under the table to Brandy through money orders and papers and all these things.
Yeah, Pampers don't cost anything, and I was only giving her like $100 here, $100 there.
Well,
So
I'll
it was
rephrase
nothing
my
major.
question. You were conscious about the fact that he was a drain on your bank account. You were getting hassled by DOR. You were being asked for a lot of money for him, right? By everybody.
Yeah, I was being asked by
Brandy, by DOR, by everybody, right?
DOR is the only people who. Yes.
Isn't it true that when police asked you about his funeral, your only response was, "I'm sure I'll be the one paying for it," right? They said, "Are you going to make arrangements?" You said, "I'll have to talk to her mama. I'm sure I'll be the one paying for it."
Yeah.
You mentioned in your questioning by your attorney that you had this stolen car in your possession that you tried to get rid of a couple days after the murders, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we saw a text message, I think, about that yesterday, didn't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and isn't it true that you swapped out the VIN on that car, the VIN number that's on the dashboard of that car, you swapped it out, right?
I had it swapped out, but I didn't swap it out myself. So, yeah, I knew it was swapped out because the car was stolen.
Okay, and the purpose of that, of swapping out a VIN number, is to keep people from realizing that it's stolen, right?
That's if you do it internally. You have to go into the engine block and take it off. You got places in the trunk. The VIN number is a lot of different places.
Right, but the most visible place is in the windshield, and that's the one that you swapped out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the purpose of that was to keep people from finding out that it was stolen.
Yes, ma'am.
So you do have some experience trying to cover up crimes, don't you?
Yes. Dealing with stolen cars, yeah.
You said that you didn't do this, you didn't kill them, you wouldn't do that. But isn't it true that you would almost kill someone, right?
You say, is it true that I would almost kill
Right,
someone?
you would try to kill someone, right?
I don't think I understand the question.
You would take a gun in your hand and point it at somebody and pull the trigger.
If you had a gun pointed at me, threatening me or my family, and I had a gun on me, yes, I most definitely would pull the gun out and prevent you from hurting me or my family.
Sure.
If
I
I
think
could.
we all believe in self-defense here. That's a law, actually. I'm talking about the fact that you drove to Mississippi because your cousin was having issues with somebody, right?
Right.
And there was a confrontation, right?
Right.
And you took a gun to that confrontation.
I took a gun. I had a gun in my vehicle because I was out of town working. I kept a gun in my vehicle when I was out of town working.
So, but you had it on you, right?
It was in my vehicle, yes.
I don't think you understand my question. During this shootout, you had a gun on you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And people were shooting guns at you and your cousin, and you were shooting guns at those people too. It was a shootout.
People started shooting guns at me and my cousin, and yes, I returned fire to protect me and my cousin.
Okay. So in this confrontation that you're saying your cousin is going to confront these people that he has issues with, he's calling his cousin to come have his back. You drive up there for this confrontation, yet they come to you and they start shooting at you first.
No, I didn't drive up there for a confrontation. I was driving up there so it wouldn't be a confrontation.
Yet you took your gun with you.
What was I going to do? Leave it at the hotel?
And isn't it true that in your direct testimony a second ago, you said that you drove up there not to prevent a confrontation. You said you went up there to have your cousin's back.
Exactly.
Those were your exact words.
That's
have his back.
That's
His
preventing a
issues
conversation.
with people he was having.
That's preventing a confrontation.
Having somebody's back in a fight is preventing confrontation? You were going there for backup and you were taking your gun.
It wasn't supposed to be a fight, is what I'm trying to tell you.
How is it not supposed to be a fight? If he's out having issues with somebody, he's calling for backup, you're taking a gun, and you're saying that's self-defense?
It's definitely self-defense when someone takes a firearm and points towards you and starts to pull the trigger.
And so your answer is yes, that you would point a gun at someone and shoot them in the confrontation like that?
If someone points a gun at me, yes, I would point a gun back at them in self-defense.
Right.
Is that the question?
In a situation where you're saying you were only going there to prevent things from happening, not to have his back like you told us before.
I went there to have his back and prevent an altercation from it escalating.
Let me ask you this way. You took a gun to the confrontation. You knew there was a possibility that you were going to be using it.
Yes.
Okay. So we've learned that you carry a gun. You will shoot it at somebody, especially if you're going to have your cousin's back. You lied to your wife repeatedly. You lied to the rest of your family. You lied to your girlfriends. You lied to the police multiple times over the course of interviews. And, I mean, you lied to God too, right? When you made all of your promises to him.
Yes.
And yet you're asking this jury to believe everything you have to say today.
Yes, because
And-
in the process of me lying and doing all this lying, I had a whole lot of time to sit down and think about all the mistakes I made, all the wrongs I've done to my wife and my ex-girlfriend and my other girlfriends that I cheated on, all the kids I had outside of my marriage. And I've learned how to right my wrongs. So.
Okay. And you're doing this completely to right your wrongs, not to escape accountability for anything that you did.
I don't feel like I need to escape accountability for anything. I think the evidence points to itself. The evidence is everything in itself.
Okay. So the fact that you had a .32 revolver,
In July.
your DNA's on the bathtub bar, you were located there before Brandy's phone went off the network forever. All that evidence speaks for itself, right?
My DNA was not on the bath bar. That's something he made up.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. When your attorney asked you about these two, he said, have you had 2 crimes of dishonesty before?
Yes.
You have been convicted 2 different times of 2 crimes of dishonesty, right?
Did I? No, I took a plea. It was just a petty theft charge. It was nothing major.
It's not whether you pled or you took it to trial. You were convicted is my question.
Yeah, it was a misdemeanor petty theft.
2 different crimes of dishonesties.
In actuality, it was only one, but the way the court do it, actually it wasn't even petty theft. It was a dealing in stolen property, and they dropped it down to a petty theft. So they put 2 charges on my record,
okay,
as if I did both of them.
It was actually originally arrested for a felony.
Right, dealing in stolen property. I brought some CDs that were stolen. I tried to sell them to the Vinyl Fever, and they came back stolen, and
okay, so
they reduced it down to a petty theft. So yes.
Just a moment. His cousin that you went to have his back in Mississippi and you ended up shooting at people. Is his name Roski?
No.
What's his name?
Why do I have to say his name?
Why wouldn't you?
His name is Jarvis.
Jarvis?
Yes.
Is his nickname Roski?
No. Jarvis lives in Louisiana. Roski lives in Tallahassee.
Right. And where does Jarvis live?
Louisiana.
Does he come here often?
No.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect.
May I move the podium back?
Here, please.
Mr. Segura, I want to ask you about the semantics of the question pertaining to your knowledge of the manner in which the twins died. By the time you're answering questions for the police, you've already talked on 2 different occasions, correct?
Yes, sir.
And ascertained that the twins were found in the bathtub.
Yes, sir.
And also ascertained by that point that Javante was found in the bathtub.
Yes, sir.
And you've indicated that that is the extent of your knowledge about how they were found, and you formed the opinion that they had drowned based on where they were found.
Yes.
You didn't actually know that they were, like how they died. You just knew they were found in the
Objection
bathtub.
to leading.
Sustained.
Okay.
Did you have exact knowledge of how they died, or did you draw that assumption?
I draw that assumption because she said they were in the bathtub.
So it was true that you didn't know how they died.
I didn't know how they died.
Okay. Fair to say that this has been a frustrating process for you?
It's been an 8-year-long frustrating process.
You sat in custody for 8 years, waiting to get here in front of the jury.
Yes.
Lost your marriage.
Lost everything.
So fair to say when you express a little frustration, it goes beyond repetitious.
I believe it goes beyond what anyone in here can ever understand or comprehend.
Yes, sir. No further questions.
Hey, Jerry, I have a question of this witness.
Please do.
If not, you can step down. Start, set it down. Don't say anything further. It'll take 10 minutes.